Okay, I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you all for joining. My name is Shem. I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm the managing director for YPFP Global Branch. Thank you very much for all of our speakers for joining and for their time. Those that were involved in the COP negotiations and those that have a very good knowledge of climate negotiations generally too. It's my pleasure to host this alongside Generation Climate Europe. Um, we're very pleased to have you join us for this event organized by both ourselves and Generation Climate Europe. We have today with us two speakers on behalf of Generation Climate Europe and two on behalf of YPFP Global Branch. A quick bit of intro for YPFP Global Branch before I hand over to Kira. YPFP Global Branch was founded in 2024 as a digital first movement. It connects young professionals from around the world who are shaping the future of foreign policy. We provide a platform for thought leadership, policy dialogue, skills building, cross-cultural learning, and networking, enabling young professionals to grow, connect, and contribute to shaping global policy in meaningful ways. Our global community is where forward-thinking ideas meet real-world solutions, empowering the next generation of leaders to make a difference on critical global challenges. Over to Generation Climate Europe.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Kira. I'm the events lead of the COP30 team of Generation Climate Europe. It's very lovely that you're all here. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you also to YPFP for collaborating with us on this and kind of suggesting the idea, which we really appreciate. So a bit on Generation Climate Europe. GCE is the largest coalition of youth-led networks within the EU that are advocating for stronger EU climate action. And we essentially bring together people from all across Europe to ensure that youth voices can meaningfully shape European policies on climate, on energy, biodiversity, and just transition. We do research, advocacy, strategic engagement with EU institutions, and the coalition really amplifies youth perspectives and really tries to drive ambition at every level of decision making. And we empower Europe's next generation of climate leaders to collaborate, to influence policy, to push for a more sustainable and equitable future. Um, and our topic of discussion today, inside the negotiation room, Junior Voices Decoding COP30 really aims to shed light on the real dynamics that shape international climate diplomacy, especially at one of the most consequential global forums, the UNFCCC COPs. We're going to discuss what actually happens inside these negotiation rooms and why it really matters, especially for young people. Um, and COP30 this year brought together thousands of delegates, governments, civil society, and also a lot of people from youth constituencies. And the goal really was to advance global action on climate change. And while much public attention really focuses on the headline commitments, the high-level speeches, the real work of shaping climate policy happens in the technical sessions, in the contact groups, and in the late-night negotiations where countries really go head-to-head and debate on the details of emission reductions, climate finance, adaptation, and specific rules for implementation. And especially for junior negotiators, these spaces offer both opportunities and challenges. They navigate complex political dynamics, they build coalitions, they learn how multilateral diplomacy functions, especially under pressure, and all that while also contributing fresh perspectives from youth and early career experts. And as climate impacts intensify and global expectations rise, the role of young negotiators really is becoming increasingly relevant for shaping inclusive and ambitious outcomes, which we really need. And in this context, today's session really aims to unpack the lived experiences of participating in COP negotiations. How are the decisions made? What dynamics shape these processes? And how are how can young professionals build their own pathways into climate diplomacy? And through a moderated conversation and a live Q&A at the end, we hope to provide a clearer understanding of the negotiation environment and inspire the next generation of climate diplomats to strive for more advances.
Thank you, Kira. So we are delighted to welcome four distinguished speakers, and they are experts all within their own fields. As our panelists today, we're very fortunate to have them. I'll first start with Chen Yen Chang. who specializes in science, technology and society studies, and technology policy research related to climate change and weather forecasting. At DSET, he is responsible for research projects on Taiwan's semiconductor industries, focusing on water and electricity supply, climate adaptation, and related challenges. His work also covers energy topics such as submarine power cables, energy reserves in the event of a Taiwan Strait blockade, and international collaboration on emerging energy technologies, including perovskite solar cells and hydrogen energy. His work and media interviews have been featured in international outlets and forums such as Nikkei Asia and East Asia Forum. He has worked on industry academia collaboration projects with the Water Resources Agency, handling flood prevention and typhoon forecasting in Taiwan. He holds a master's degree from the Department of Geography at National Taiwan University with a bachelor's degree in atmospheric sciences and sociology. His master's thesis focused on the impact of numerical models on disaster prevention policymaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. And our next speaker is Tasneem Syed Ahmed, who is a Sudanese environmental researcher and also a plastic engineer and climate advocate who specializes in the intersection of climate change, conflict, and urban resilience in fragile contexts like, for example, Sudan. She is a loss and damage negotiator with the least developed countries countries group who are also called LDC in short, especially negotiations. When you see the LDC, that means least developed countries. And it's a role she began as a youth junior negotiator fellow, supported by the International Institute for Environment and Development. And Tasneem's background includes researching the environmental harm of conflict using satellite imagery with the Conflict and Environment Observatory. Furthermore, she also brings extensive on-the-ground experience from humanitarian interventions, having worked with Médecins Sans Frontières and local Sudanese NGOs, ensuring her advocacy effectively bridges science, policy, and community action for a just and sustainable recovery. Thank you, Tasneem, for joining us.
Over to Ahmed El Hadj Taib, is a Tunisian climate and water specialist, youth negotiator, and environmental advocate. A Chevening scholar pursuing a master's in science in climate change, development, and policy at the University of Sussex. He has represented Tunisia at UNFCCC negotiations since COP26, focusing on adaptation, the global goal on adaptation, NAPs, and finance. He served as General Secretary of Youth for Climate Tunisia and also served as a youth ambassador for Break Free from Plastic and a campaign leader for Stop Ecocide. Ahmed is recognized for pioneering the first Tunisian fogcatcher and for advancing youth participation in climate policy at national, regional, and international levels. It's our pleasure to host you, Ahmed. Thank you for joining us.
And then last but not least, we have Malek Romdan, who's a Tunisian, who's a young climate negotiator and senior sustainability consultant from Tunisia. She holds a master's in sustainability management and innovation from the University of Westminster, which was awarded via a full Chevening scholarship. And she's also a graduate of the UN office in Geneva's 60s graduate study program, where she further refined her expertise in sustainable development goals, the so-called SDGs. In her role as a loss and damage coordination support lead, Malek focuses on fundraising and budget support to ensure the financial sustainability needed to sustain and scale up the collaboration's critical work. Her advocacy includes serving as the regional youth focal point for Northern Africa and Western Asia at the UN International Federation of Youth on Water and Climate. And Malek is also dedicated to disseminating accessible climate policy research and driven by her commitment to a future where human rights and climate justice are fully realized. Thank you so much for joining us. So thank you, all four of us, for being with us today and agreeing to answer a lot of our most pressing questions. And we're very delighted to welcome you to our event, and we're grateful to you for giving us your time to join us today. And here just a quick update and insight into how the session will run. We'll begin first with an FAQ-style discussion, which will last around an hour, where we will ask our speakers 6 key questions. And then after that, we will move into a 10 to 15-minute live Q&A where participants are welcome to submit their questions, which you can do anytime through the Zoom chat, or you can also later on ask them directly during the Q&A segment. So maybe note some questions down if you have them during the discussion. And then our moderators will select, a range of these questions, try to get as many questions answered as possible and bring them directly to the speakers. And just a quick message, we really kindly ask everyone to engage respectfully, ensure that your microphones remain unmuted. And if there's any questions or anything, you can always put them in the chat and we'll, moderate it throughout the session. Thank you very much. And then I guess we can get into the panel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kira. Let me stop sharing and everyone all together. My first question, and this is a question for all of the panelists, is how did you first find your way into climate negotiations, either as an observer or as a delegate or in another capacity? If we kick things off with Chen Yan.
Okay. To my experience back, as Kila just described before, like my background is not fully related to climate negotiation. In fact, my previous job is a weather forecaster, so it's quite unique because I'm currently working as a policy analyst in Taiwan's energy policy. So this year is my first year to attend COP, and it's because the opportunity provided by Taiwanese government, and there's a project that the Taiwanese government would like to encourage that you young people to join international conference like COP. That is one of the example. So it's like it's a kind of the accident or it's an opportunity because Taiwan is not the official member in UN. So it's also we don't have any climate negotiator, a senior negotiator in Taiwan. So it's also my country's first time to realize that wow, it really does something that's really important, and there will be some strategy. So to the question that it's not I don't find my way into this field. Like somehow like it's a chance or it's an accident, and I felt like I find and so I'm happy to be here to as a learner from other panelists to give us some suggestion. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Cheyenne. If I could remind everyone, for all the panelist speakers, 2 minutes each for this question. So thank you, Cheyenne, for fulfilling that. Over to you, Ahmed, for the same question. So it's how did you first find your way into climate negotiations?
Well, hello everyone. Good morning. Hope everyone's doing good. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure being with you here. Well, my entry into climate negotiations began when Tunisia created what we call the first group of young Tunisian climate negotiators before COP26. Until then, unfortunately, young people in our country rarely had the chance to participate or sit inside negotiation rooms. Well, it was like an initiative by the ex-focal point Mohammed Zmirli and GIZ, the German cooperation in Tunisia. So they created this group of young climate negotiators just to support the Tunisian delegation. As you know, our second language in Tunisia is French, our third is English, and the process in the UNFCCC, you need to be fluent in English so you could do a good presentation of your country and to fulfill the mission of negotiations. So they took us to support the Tunisian delegation, the seniors, the directors that we have in several ministries. And before COP26, we went through intensive preparation. We had to understand the UNFCCC system, the structure of negotiation, the tracks, and the position of different groups. None of us, I guess, had formal diplomatic training, so we learned everything from scratch. What made it powerful was that we were not doing it alone. We were a team supporting each other and shaping a new model for youth engagement in Tunisia. And we had some good trainees as well. And yeah, when we arrived in Glasgow, everything became real. The scale of the COP was overwhelming at first, But being part of an official young negotiation team immediately gave us purpose, and we found ourselves actually inside negotiation rooms, learning how to negotiate, observing and listening. And yeah, that was my first cup, and that how everything started. It was thanks to the focal point who gave us like who believed in us actually, and who gave us like the opportunity. And since then, like our group like attended like COP27, COP28, COP29, and finally COP30 with Malek here, and we've attended as well several SBs.
Thank you, Ahmed. Right on time as well. Thank you very much for that. Really great introduction. Tasneem, the same question over to you.
Okay, hi. Thank you for the opportunity first, and for my I started at the first COP27. I went as a youth delegate, so I was an observer. I did not involved in the negotiation. It was like actually my first time to go there and also see there's like negotiation and what's going on. And from there, I kept a good contact with my national focal point, and the next year there was a call for IIED, International Institute of Environment and Development, to support junior youth to engage in the LDC group and to engage in the climate diplomacy and to support the group. So I got applied and I got selected. And from there, I was part of the IIED supported negotiator, just like the Tunisia example. We didn't had diplomacy training or any training before regarding negotiation, but we got supplied with everything through this fellowship program. And from there I went like COP Dubai, Baku until Brazil. So under the same program. Thanks.
Thank you, Tasneem. And then finally, Malik.
Thank you. So basically, I have been always interested in climate policy and climate advocacy, but my interest grew when I actively participated in a youth exchange program called Environmentally Friendly Targets in Modbury, the city council in the UK. And it was the first town in Europe that banned the use of plastic bags. And basically, this project shaped my perspective on how like leadership and the acquisition of the right knowledge can influence policies and generate impact on business. During actually that project, I met with Rebecca Hosking. She's filmmaker and photographer from BBC that banned the use of plastic bags in that city through only not talking with the citizen of that town, but also talking with the shopkeepers. So basically, she convinced all the shopkeepers to stop the use of plastic bags and to sell the reusable bags. And this way, she banned the use of plastic bags in the whole city. That experience actually shaped my perspective on how like one person can generate impact, and that person is not from the government, but he is from the society. So by then, it was in 2018, the end of 2018. So in 2019, I contacted my focal point. I emailed my focal point and asked to be part of the delegation of my country that is attending COP25. And I sent my CV and my motivation letter. And I asked also another organization to contact my focal point to emphasize my work on climate and environment. And I managed to get a badge from my focal point to attend COP25 as a delegate, part of the official delegation of my country. And after that, as Ahmed mentioned, so basically I was part of my country, the first cohort of young negotiators. So basically, if I can sum it, that policy can be led by citizens. This is how it shaped my experience to climate negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Malik. I will actually start with you for this next question, Malik. And this is for all panelists once again. What does a day in the life look like at the COP?
Basically, my day maybe starts at 6 a.m. So I have in each negotiation, I'm starting at 8 a.m. with the African group negotiators meeting. It's coordination meetings to align perspectives, positions, and priorities, and to have an overview about all the negotiations that happening at COP. So basically, at 8 a.m. I should be at the venue, so I should be preparation early because there is a lot of queue at the morning and all of that. So at 8 a.m. I need to be in the conference to attend the AGN coordination meeting. After that, I go to CCTV to check. It's a screen when they put the negotiations. So basically, I check my track for negotiations where I should go. Mainly, I was following for this COP, GGA, NAPS, and ACE, Action for Climate Empowerment. So basically, I set my agenda according to that. And I'm having at one coordination meeting for the Arab group and at two the coordination group for G77 plus China, since Tunisia is part of three groups: Arab group, G77, and the African group. And by 6, I wrap up by the last coordination meeting for the African group. But it doesn't end there because some negotiations take even after midnight. So I'm staying in the venue until late. And when I found time, I accept some panels, and also I do some videos for my organization to report about my journeys at COP. So basically, it starts from early morning till the end of the night, depending on my negotiation tracks. So this is for me.
Thank you for such a fascinating insight. Very early start too, so not easy, not easy for the entire duration. Tasneem, over to you.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to what Malak said. So Sudan, we are part of four group, the AGN, the African group, Arab group, and LDC. Yeah, and also the G77. So you have many coordination. Like realistically, I tried, like previous COP to attend all, but it doesn't work. So I focus on one or two. So at morning we have a LDC meeting start at 8, and then check. So I follow loss and damage, and I follow the fund response for loss and damage under finance. I check my agenda, what's meetings I do have, and my day go like this. Some days even like you go to the meeting like informal. It's not finished. They need to extend the meeting, so they look for a room. Sometimes even if it's not on the screen, you have to check the WhatsApp groups we have, and then yeah, you just they send like in 10 minutes in this room, so you go there. So it's basically shaped by the negotiation, informal, and what's happening there. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Tasneem. Over to you, Ahmed, for your perspective on what a day in the life looks like at COP.
Well, I guess like attending five COPs now, like from year to year, it's different, because it's the responsibility is growing. You're attending more meetings and everything, but like my answer won't be that different from what my colleagues said right now. A day at COP often starts early, by 7 or 8 a.m. to attend the AGN meeting or the delegation, let's say, coordination meeting. And these meetings are like crucial and important because the negotiation rooms move quickly, and if you're not aligned internally with your groups, you risk losing the strategic ground before the day even begins. Once the agenda is clear, probably by 9 or 10, the day becomes like a true marathon. You run from one negotiation room to another, often with barely like enough time to grab a coffee or to check your phone or to chat with someone. At any moment, you may enter a room where the text has completely changed overnight. A paragraph you thought was all right and you agreed on it. It was like, let's say, secure. Suddenly reappears with new brackets or new modifications, or a sentence you fought for yesterday may be deleted in a matter of seconds because you missed like a meeting or you didn't attend the negotiation session because probably it was too late or you had something to do. There are also like the drafting groups that called the informals and last minute consultations that are not announced like publicly, as my colleague from Sudan mentioned. These meetings often decide like the real direction of the negotiations or of the text. You may be invited into like a small group or a small huddle or a small chat, like even not even in a room, by the corridors of the venue, with 10 people discussing like a single phrase or a single word, and that phrase can define how global framework is implemented for years. I remember at this COP, me and Malek, we had this dictionary of like we were comparing what this word exactly means and what this word exactly means. Throughout the day, you also balance interactions. As Malek mentioned, if you have time, you should chat with civil society, you chat with your friends, you're invited to a side event, or have a chit chat with technical experts who are following the negotiations from outside the rooms, so you can check their perspective, their points of view, because it's really, really important to listen to people that aren't inside the negotiation rooms and they are observing from a little bit like outside, and it's really important to know that. The corridors of COP are just important as the negotiation rooms. That's where you meet other, countries informally, clarify misunderstanding, build alliances, and identify potential compromises. A 5-minute conversation with someone from outside the negotiation room is always important. And by afternoon, the fatigue sets, and you're thinking about the informals, and sometimes you can go like to midnight even more. That's in a nutshell how a day at COP could be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ahmed, for that very comprehensive answer. And I'm sure our audiences, those that are here now or those that will watch later on YouTube, will really appreciate that from all of you. Chen Yan, last but not least, over to you.
Okay, my schedule is totally different from others panels because I don't have a complete badge, or I'm not allowed to go to the blue zone in COP30. Actually, I have like 2 or 3 days I can attending blue zone. So in this day, I'm just grieving the only chance I can after the negotiation I interested in, and I just walk in the negotiation room, and then right now taking note all everything I can understand and just trying to follow up the discussion. But I realize that more of the progress is happening in informal. So actually, I'm just like the reporter. I'm just bringing out the information and then share it to my colleague from Taiwan. And like I just mentioned about most of my time, I spend my time in green zone. So my job is like set up the webinar and then contact the speaker or be the moderator, and then do everything the logistic time. And then my other task is to networking. Especially I'm currently working on regional collaboration in energy in South Asia. So like when I was in blue zone or in green zone, I'm just trying to attending a site event or like national prevalent, and then trying to connect it or to make contact with the person that I'm interested in with. Yeah. So like choose my to sum up that my role is more like reporter trying to bring out the information happening in Brazil, and the other one is like trying to make connections with other technology or policy expert. Yes. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. That was really insightful, Chanyan, and a different perspective, which I think is equally as valuable for COP. As you all know, you don't just have to be a delegate at these COP negotiations, and having an outsider, an external perspective is equally as very valuable for our audiences. So thank you very much for sharing, Chanyan. My next question is once again to everyone, and if you could keep your answers to 2 minutes each, I really appreciate that. We will start this time with Chen Yan, and I will ask you, what was one moment or takeaway behind the scenes that changed how you see international climate politics and diplomacy, and why?
Okay, thank you for the question. And I want to share, like, because it's my first time to attending COP, and it's actually like there's little discussion about COP in Taiwan because we are not a formal member. So actually, my takeaway that entrench my thought about COP30 or like the international climate policy is during like in the second week when I was observing the negotiation on the clean development mechanism. And I want to share with you, like, I observed that the G77 plus China had already dominated the discussion during the informal meeting, but it ended up like the draft, the discussion, the decision will be goes down like all of the money in CDM go to the market mechanism. And it reminds me that I feel really conflict about my I feel like there is something very important to me. I found out that maybe the COP30 is not just about the negotiation between nations. It's also related to like how people how these delegation believe in market or not. And actually, I found that we all know that China, or currently, because United States already withdrew from the negotiation. So currently, we found that even though that China had already dominates it had been become the main leader of climate diplomacy, we can find out that the market still be the major actor or major factor to influence that's the conclusion or the direction of climate diplomacy. And I will be it shocked me a lot. Yes, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ahmed, over to you for the same question. You're on mute, by the way.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. There is this moment that I cannot forget. Actually, it was during COP27. It actually changed completely how I see the climate negotiations. We were like negotiating. It was like the early stages of the GGA, the Global Goal Adaptation, COP27 Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt, and it was a very intense session actually. And among the negotiators, it was like this young delegate. He's a very good friend of mine. I won't say the country, from developing country, an island actually, who was attending, I guess, his second COP or his first COP. And when he took the floor, he didn't speak with a diplomatic language. He spoke from the heart, with an open heart. He explained that his country is already facing the possibility of drowning and being lost to the sea, to sea level rise. And he said it very directly that every delay, every blockage, every bracket in the text represents a real life and real land disappearing and a huge threat to his country. But instead of receiving empathy, some delegates actually from developed countries, from strong groups, started whispering and even laughing during his intervention. And that moment was extremely hard to watch for me as a young delegate attending, as a climate activist as well, attending my second COP. It showed me something very raw about the power imbalance in climate negotiations, imbalance in climate negotiations. Even when a country is fighting to its survival, not anyone in the room treats reality with seriousness, you know? That moment made me understand that climate politics is not only about science or vulnerability, it is deeply impacted and shaped by power, and by who has influence, and by who feels secure enough to ignore the urgency of others. It also taught me that being emotional or honest, it's not always respected in these rooms. Some delegations will not care about your suffering. It does not align with their interest. It was a painful lesson to me to learn, but it was an important one, because it's also taught me that negotiators from developing countries must be clear, direct, strategic, and united. We cannot rely on sympathy. We need to know how to negotiate. We need to learn the negotiation strategies, and we need to be straight to the point, you know. And that's it was a hard lesson for me to learn, but I guess an important one.
Thank you, Ahmed, for sharing such a powerful, emotive case study and an example, and something that I think everyone will agree and everyone here on this call, I'm sure, is bound by climate justice and a shared understanding and mutual respect for one another. So thank you very much for sharing that. Over to you, Tasneem.
Okay, thank you, Ahmed, for sharing that. I think I have like similar outcome or lesson. Like from the negotiation, I thought before like enroll, like it will be all in the rooms, like the agreement will be reached in the rooms, but this is not the reality. It's all in especially the contentious like paragraphs or things that's very important. Normally, it will end up to be discussed on a political level. And on the political level, you are not mostly there. It's mostly ministerial or high level meetings, even the huddles and all the other bilateral that's being done in rooms that it's not accessible maybe to all negotiator. Where the real like negotiation and decisions being made, you know. So and I think also in some cases like the COP got like when the COP was extended like for 2 or 3 days, then you will have most like developing nation countries were already booked, flight already booked, they cannot like change. It's sometimes it's very expensive, so they end up leaving, and then like what's left, then there is no like real representation of what's being said. Also the language barrier, like I think now it's being overcome like with new negotiator or but in historically I think there's been advantages against the developing nation, like some wording and all of these like technical law words. So yeah, there is like we feel like the system or whatever being done, it's not. We need a lot of work as a developing nation to be able to compact what's going on, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasneem, for sharing, the reality and where we need to work towards. I think it's a really, really powerful reminder to us all. Malik, over to you.
Thank you. So basically, when I started attending the climate negotiations and COP mainly, I wasn't aware of the work of the ministers. And because some of my agenda that I was attending when I started was that finishes in the first week of COP. So basically, I was like, what those ministries do at COP, what are their rules? But I didn't think like their roles at COP was linked to our role as negotiators. And when I started to attend negotiations that finish at the second week, so those under Substa and the first ones under SBI, or it could be Substa and SBI for the ones that finish at the second week, that moment changed how I see climate diplomacy, and I started realizing that the biggest breakthrough often does not happen in the negotiation rooms, but in the ministerial meetings and in the bilateral meetings. Actually, the high level political mandate and final sign off come from those bilateral meetings. Like, for example, in the last GGA, we finished mostly our work as negotiators at the first week, and we couldn't come to a final agreement without having those bilateral meetings with the ministerial to compromise on the text and find a final compromise text, even though that we tried to do this as negotiators, but in somehow we failed as negotiators, like all of us, to find compromise without having the final sign off from the ministerial room and a more high level negotiations than the negotiation that happened in with the negotiators. So I think they provide necessarily political and capital commitment to break the deepest deadlocks and that the technical team could not resolve during the negotiation rooms. So I wanted to acknowledge the role that the ministerial could have, like the ministerial meetings, because at some point they are needed if there is no compromise in the rooms.
Yeah, absolutely. In agreement. And that's really great insight for me as someone myself who hasn't attended a COP before. My next question is once again to everyone. And if you could keep your answers to 2 minutes, that would be really, really, really helpful. What was the best piece of advice you got from your colleagues or senior negotiators at COP or at a international forum related to climate? We'll start over with Malik.
For me, is that you are not representing yourself, your point of view. You are representing your country points of view. So basically, I need to shut down my emotions and my thinking at the negotiation and to think from my country position and how my words could impact my country if I say something wrong, because we started, or I personally started from advocacy side. So basically, I can say a lot of things as an advocate, but it's not the same in diplomatic level because I'm not representing myself. So I'm representing my country. Maybe some of my views are not okay with my countries or will create political tension for my country. And this advice emphasized my emotional regulation. And when I'm inside the negotiation room, I don't rush like to make an intervention or to think on how we can intervene right now, etc. I'm more strategic in somehow. I see like on which side we can align as Tunisia, and where we can make intervention, we inform our national focal point, etc. I don't intervene as myself, but rather I think in a more broader way. I'm here to represent a country, so what's the best position that in this moment and can take that work with the position of my country.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that, Malik. Over to you, Tasneem.
So from my side, I would say, especially with my first COP as a negotiator, COP28. So we had a very small delegation as a Sudan as a result of a war going. So we had very small delegation, and I tried to follow free agenda, and I got like advice like it's better just to start with one, especially as a new negotiator, because when you start with one and follow it all fully, then you will get to understand the process, because I was new to the process. After that, you can try to add agenda that you feel your time can do it, but especially at the start, I think I benefit from it. I think really following one agenda, it helped me to understand. I've been able like to attend all the meeting related to it, so I didn't have like to miss one meeting. So this helped me understand how it's going on. I think it's good advice for a beginner also in the process. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that with me. Over to you, Ahmed, for what you found. What was the best piece of advice you got from your colleagues or senior negotiators?
Um, well, I guess I was having this training with a senior negotiator, Algerian one actually, and he said something. It was like during my first cups actually, or SBs, I remember. Said never forget who is not in the room. This stayed with me because I'm an activist, before becoming a negotiator, I'm an activist at the strikes. I go outside with the people, I try to understand the suffering of the people. I am one of the people that are impacted of climate change. So that stayed with me because when I come from like a climate vulnerable region, it's not like a negotiating theory. We are negotiating survival, we are carrying the voices of the farmers, the voices of the students, the voices of coastal communities and local communities, young people as well, future generations. So it's very important to keep in mind that a lot of people who couldn't like make it. A lot of people who are mostly impacted and affected by climate change are not there. So it's like a huge responsibility that you need to keep with you. Probably another thing that I would mention as well is like uh, sometimes don't underestimate the power of silence inside negotiation rooms. Sometimes it's like one of the most strategic moves is to listen carefully before speaking and understand the underlying motivations and intervene at the right moment, as Malek mentioned. One last thing I would mention is as well as like you need to learn how to separate the person from the position because negotiators can become tense, especially when discussion stall and there is a lot of blocking and everything. But always keep in mind that you're gonna probably keep meeting the same negotiator for years and years for SBs, for COPs, for workshops. So you better like stay friends with them, always be gentle and everything. As I said, like you need to learn how to separate the person from the position. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that, Ahmed. Over to you, Chenyan.
Okay, to my perspective, I would say that I'm quite jealous about the panelist experience because in my when I joined my first COP in Brazil, one of the senior NGOs advocacy told me that they told to me that it would be a very meaningful opportunity to me because it's the only opportunity I can observe that how a normal climate diplomacy discussion in the world, which really happened in the world. Why I have to say that because that in Taiwan or in my in my work as a think tank researcher that we are doing things more like advocacy. We are trying to proving that Taiwan can be a member in the international society. So we are try our best to showing that all the experience of Taiwan is really unique, and we can do some help, do some assistance about the adaptation or mitigation. Yeah, something like this. But in COP30, that I found out that it is quite normal to a country to express their interest or to show that they are not happy with the draft or with the decision. I want to share one of my experience. When I saw that the delegation from Ukraine, they are expressing their angry to Russia, and it really shocked me a lot because when I presenting Taiwan or when I was in COP30, uh, uh, neither in blue zone or green zone, I have to check myself that I'm not make China angry. I had to de-risk my I had to de-risk uh, my speech because we have to say that Taiwan is helping. We are not making China angry, and we are trying to just want to share our experience. I cannot say that Taiwan has our opportunity, our viewpoint, or we want to join the international discussion. And yes, and that's every this is what I feel, and I really in this sentence, this really influenced me a lot. Like I'm really jealous about the country has the opportunity to discuss with each other, showing your own interest and make a decision and figure out a solution together. Yes, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chenyan, and a really, really fascinating insight into what else goes on in big negotiations, big events like this, because you can have political nuances that spill over into big international COP events like this. So thank you very much for sharing that, Chenyan. My final question for the panelists before we go into individual specific questions is, and then we'll start off with you, Tasnim. Sorry, with you, Chenyan. What was for people interested in pursuing a career in negotiation or in something relevant to what you're doing, what would you say are the best resources to get them started and the skills needed for that role?
Okay, to this question, I'm not sure that I really delegate, I'm really eligible to answer that because I'm not, I'm really junior, like as I am first attending COP30, and especially I'm not a delegate, I'm just an observer. But to my point, like, because I am quite aligned with China, Taiwan's position that Taiwan is trying to express our we can join the international discussion as an expert, or we had something to help with other. So I'm saying that maybe as me, like I'm not initially working or studying any the discussion the background as a background of climate diplomacy, and I'm just working to as like I'm expert in weather forecast, or I'm good at disaster management and prevention. So it would be I think it's quite not a very common, but it's quite it's quite it has some opportunity of the career path that you have your own professional field and something related to climate change, and you can just step into the like a think tank or like a NGO, and then trying to connect climate change and your own profession. And it's also very helpful in COP30, no matter you are a delegate or not, because there's lots of NGOs or lots of advocacy in COP30. So I found that there's something, there's always opportunity to get into it. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that, Chen Yan. And over to you, Ahmed, for the same question. For people interested in pursuing a career in negotiation, what would you say are the best resources to get them started and the skills needed for that?
Well, I guess if someone wants to enter negotiations, I'll always tell them to start with understanding, first of all, the UNFCCC machinery. Like, what is the UNFCCC? It is like a complex ecosystem, you know, that with its own vocabulary, history, and institutional memory, reading COP decisions, SB conclusions, and it's very, very, very important to read what I call like the Atlas of Humanity, the IPCC reports. That really helps to build like a scientific and a political foundation. But there are some skills that even matter more. Negotiation requires like strategic thinking, requires as well fast reading and the ability to process under pressure. Also, you also need diplomatic sensitivity, as I was mentioning earlier. Like, you're in a room with multiple diplomats, with a lot of countries, so each word, each facial expression matter. You know that it's like very, very, very sensitive, as because you're working like across cultures, power imbalances, political tensions. Soft skills like active listening, staying calm in heated situations, and communicating consciously are truly essential. In terms of resources, young people can start with the UNFCCC negotiation simulations. You could find that online. Well, a few years ago, probably couldn't had like a lot of resources, especially on the internet. But now, like, if you want to learn how to become a negotiator, you can find like a lot of trainings, a lot of videos on YouTube, a lot of websites, a lot of materials. The PCCB Academy, the UNFCCC Climate Champions materials as well. You can all find that all online, and the Youngo training programs. Probably Malek could talk more about that better than me. You could like join regional networks like the like NGOs and several continents that offer like technical insights. I also encourage following the work of the adaptation committee to understand the adaptation more if you're interested more in adaptation. If you're interested in finance, you could follow the work on the Standing Committee of Finance. And definitely there are some resources that I always follow. I always read them from them. The Carbon Brief. It gives you like insights about COP since like I don't know first COP I guess or something, and the Earth Negotiation Bulletin. There are very 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 important. It makes you follow the negotiations step by step. Every word, it's everything is there, you know. So above all, negotiations like is learned through exposure. volunteering with the youth networks, with the regional networks, and joining national delegations. It's very important for young people to start like searching and knowing what I was mentioning, I guess, to if they want to pursue a career in climate negotiations.
Thank you, Ahmed, once again, for a really comprehensive response. And I'm sure there's many resources that our audience can tap into to replenish their own knowledge and if they want to start from scratch or begin in this field. Tasnim, over to you.
Yeah, so I would say from my side, for me, I'm doing the climate negotiation as a part-time. It's not my full-time thing, and I think it will depend on the country. So for some countries, if you want to be like a full-time, like this is the main career as a negotiator, then you need to be a government employee. So it will be actually to start within the government, the relevant like the national focal point, and to go through them. In some countries, they have a flexibility to open like for civil society to be part of the negotiation, or to be full-time negotiator. Because like, for example, as part of the negotiation, it's not only the COP. So there is like the mid-session poem. There are like the relevant meetings during the year sometimes, that you should go to also. So if you like me, I already work in civil society. So it's sometimes it's hard to go to all of these meetings during the year. So I only go to the COP, and depends on the visa situation, I can go to the PON or not. But if it's like full-time career from the question, I think it will be the government. It's the ideal path, and then also like the knowledge, what Ahmed said, like you need to have like the previous knowledge. There is like different booklet or resources to help like on negotiation. There is also, I think, a new like the youth negotiator academy. They do also like training for them. But the main facilitator, like if it's full-time career, I think would be the government. I don't know. From our side, this is the case. Like full-time career would be the government. So thank you.
Thank you, Tasnim. And Malik, finally.
Thank you. So basically, I agree with the panelist that successful career requires both technical knowledge and core interpersonal skills. But however, I think before deepen on what skills that are needed, we need as persons that we are interested in pursuing the negotiations or making it as a career to understand what are our interpersonal skills and what are the technical knowledge that we are bringing to the table. So basically, based on that, we can know what skills, fundamental skills that we have, we can cultivate to more mastering the process and bringing an added value to our governments or the governments that we would like to represent. Being a technical negotiator, it's not mandatory that you will be representing your country. You can even start with another government. So basically, we all have the list of governments that are part of ratified the UNFCCC convention on the website of the UNFCCC, and everyone can feel free to email any government he's interested to support or to volunteer with, and some government accept externals, so it's good to start from there. And I think after that we need to start by cultivating our fundamental skills. Active listening is really needed, and your professional, also your academic background is also a good fact. For example, if you are from legal academic perspective, you can help with the legal text drafting or whether analyzing the text. If you have like a business background, you can also help when it comes to data measuring and all of that, because some negotiations are rather scientific than um, are scientific. Also, you need to practice your emotional regulation and not to become intense when the negotiations are heated. And some of the resources that I personally recommend, since I was part of them and I contributed, is Climatalk. It's a platform where we publish like small articles on climate policies, and it helps to navigate the conferences. Personally, I wrote articles on how, for example, what is the NFCCC processes, how to navigate the first day at COP, the challenges that I personally faced when I started my climate negotiation process. So basically, and there are other short policy articles that other colleagues have wrote that also complete the whole journey. Also joining expert networks, for example, such as loss and damage collaboration. So basically it helps to gain insights and technical insights and expertise into specific policy tracks. As Ahmed mentioned, also you can check Yongo. So basically there are a lot of working groups when it comes to adaptation, loss and damage, comms, and other tracks. So I think like start volunteering for the cause that you are most interested about. See how can you engage on more policy levels with governments, and join training through programs like UNITAR, UN. So and your academic also background is really important in helping in this process, and do like simulations on COP. For example, when I started, I did COP at my city. It was online. So basically, I participated with other delegates on how can we make intervention and all of that. But also joining webinars like this, it helps to understand the process, and it shows like what's the benefits of doing all of that and how can we enhance, and how our journey started. Maybe it influenced other people to pursue the same journey or to take another shift in their journeys. Thank you.
Thank you for a really, really helpful and insightful look into the resources that are available for our audiences, for junior people, for young people especially. And that's a big thank you to all of you for your responses on that. It's really, really, really interesting to hear how different those resources are, especially as well as there's plenty out there, not just online, but physically as well, that people can use to tap into and be more knowledgeable on. So we'll move on to our individual specific questions now, where you will all have one question each. The first one will be with Tasneem. So Tasneem, given your role as a junior negotiator for the LDC group, what do you see as the most pressing gaps in how current climate negotiations address the environmental impacts of conflict, and what concrete changes should the global community prioritize?
Yeah, so I would say with environmental impact of a conflict, so we don't, so it's a climate change. So we focus on the climate change impacts for conflict affected country, because the climate change, in case of a conflict, will be multiplier for the effects. But because if you take it like individually, the environmental impact of a conflict, it's an important issue, of course, and I work on it, but it's not it's not related directly to the climate change. But what we are saying, it's like the climate change impacts in conflict and fragile states like Sudan, because we do have the environmental impact of conflict and the climate change impacts, and we try to we push for negotiation as a position to prioritize giving support, technical assistance to countries that suffer from climate change impacts, and it's already with the conflict, the situation is very hard, and I would say it's difficult to get consensus around this in the negotiation room. I think some of the compromise we made, like language, it's become like human mobility. So like to provide prioritize providing technical support. I don't remember like the phrase exactly, but it's like on the language of like providing technical support for countries that have high human mobility, and the human mobility is it's involved, like more mobility because of the war, mobility because of the climate action and all of this. So this the consensus that we made, like to just to have human mobility, and in general also like with the LDC group, still like there is the needs for more finance to match the need, and also like the means of implementation. It's also like there is lack of ambition around this too. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Tasneem. It's very helpful to understand what's happening at the LDC group, especially as that's a growing block that will only increase in time in influence and in importance. My next question goes to Chen Yan, where I'll ask him, based on your work on scenarios like the Taiwan Strait blockade, what insights can these countries bring into climate diplomacy to strengthen global approaches to adaptation and resilience?
Okay, thank you for the question. Yeah, and currently, because like the current geopolitical situation that in my country, there's lots of discussion about like how PRC, like how China will Chinese threat to Taiwan, and after Ukraine, that Taiwan is expected to be the next target or the next regional war to be happen. So currently in Taiwan's political agenda, that Taiwan Strait blockade will be the very major discussion and the first agenda of it. So it influence like the climate change will be little discussion on it because people care about the short-term threat. They don't care about like the long-term risk. Yeah, but this time when I attended my COP30 in Brazil, I found out that the strategy of Ukraine, it really inspired me. That Ukraine, the think tank in Ukraine, they publish a report that calculates the carbon emission caused by the Russia and Ukraine's wars. That they calculate that when the wars are happening, like the fossil fuel they use in the battlefield, and also that the delay or the destruction of destroy of that power plant or dam will cause that the potential cost emission, carbon emission. Like they calculate and summarize all the potential or directly carbon emission, and then give out the conclusion that how much carbon emission caused by Russia, and it really like transformed the regional geopolitics risk into a climate stress test, and it really like it grabbed everyone in that side event that like, everybody was inspired. Like they connect to a regional issue to global issues. That and I think that there might be a strategy to me like that as a Taiwanese that we are currently like yeah, we can this it also told me that there's strong connection between the region, the local issue to the climate change. That is not separate or it's short term, it's long term. It's all combined together. Yes, and I'll share with you my observation of that. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that, Chenyan. And it's a helpful reminder too of the impact that a conflict so far away from Taiwan in Eurasia and Europe with the Ukraine-Russia crisis can impact countries all over the world and can have a profound impact in various spheres, not only in climate. So thank you for sharing that. It's a helpful reminder. Malik, this question is next to you. The negotiation track that you were working on at COP30, the global goal on adaptation indicators, was one of the major outcomes of negotiations. From your perspective, were there any obstacles during the negotiation that significantly impacted their final outcome?
Thank you for the question. So basically, there was a lot of obstacles, if we can say like this. One of them was it's the fundamental challenge of creating those indicators, like what is the content of these indicators, what is the time frame, how is it legally binding? So basically, the division were around the creation of those indicators, and over the content, the legal framing, and timing of adoption. Another challenge was regarding the methodology of those indicators, and the fact of creating a coherent and universally set of indicators for adaptation was a major hurdle and a major technical hurdle during the negotiations. Another point was the finance point, since for developed countries, finance is not part of these negotiations. We are here only to discuss the indicators. And for developing countries, we need finance. How can we measure the progress on adaptation without having finance linkage? And this was a strong point of tension from the beginning of the negotiation, and was the push by the developing countries to explicitly link the GGA indicators to new financial commitment. And this was happened even in Mitterrand text. By the end, we had the commitments of tripling the adaptation for finance, the finance, sorry, adaptation from here to 2035. But however, maybe this was a major outcome, but still that this goals is not we don't know how and how much, and the methodologically framework regarding it. So we just have a goal of tripling the adaptation finance within NCQG. However, this target did not include any baseline, remains below the needs of developing countries. So those are the two major hurdles during the negotiations, or obstacles, was the framing of and developing the content of the GGA. And another point here is the number of indicators. Even though like the expert were working for 2 years, and from 9,000 more than 9,000 indicators, we come with 100 indicators. Still, developing countries found that the number of 100 indicators is still too much, because we cannot track 100 indicators at once. So we come to reduce the number of indicators to 59 indicators. And also there was some indicators who were tracking our sovereignty, the national budget, and there were indicators that were duplicated in the list, and indicators related to other themes like loss and damage. And we are here in the track of adaptation, and if we put indicators that are tracking other track, we are taking also finance from, and we are shedding the light from, for example, loss and damage. When they talk about financing for loss and damage, they can ask them go for adaptation or go for GGA, because the finance is there for loss and damage. So those were the major obstacles, and during the negotiation, and the concerns raised were by developed or developing countries.
Thank you very much, Malik, for a really interesting insight into I know that everyone has been asked very different questions, but it's so interesting to see the differences between the variety in answers, the different answers from different all of the panelists. And financing is a really important part of it, and it has been for a while, and it will continue to be. And it's really interesting to see what happened in the last COP in terms of financing commitments and the discussions pertaining to that topic. Malik, Ahmed, this is the final question to you. You have been involved in the negotiation process since SP56. How have you seen adaptation develop across the process since then, and what major achievements have been made in this regard?
Well, actually, been following negotiations since COP26, but you're not wrong because at COP26 I followed capacity building, which is very important, as a thematic as well. And since since SB56, I started following adaptation, and I believe that I've seen that adaptation has undergone a major transformation since SB56. When I first entered the process, adaptation often felt like overshadowed by mitigation. The political attention, the funding, and the media focus tended to gravitated around emissions reduction, Article 6, carbon markets. But for a region like ours, adaptation is the front line. Adaptation is like the most important thing that we should talk about and we should like negotiate over. It is the difference between resilience and collapse for us in our region. As I was saying, since SB56, one of the biggest evolutions has been the development of the Global Goal on Adaptation, Article 7.1 of the Paris Agreement. In the early sessions, I've been there. Discussions were conceptual and abstract. We were debating what adaptation even mean at a global level. There was resisting to defining targets. There was like disagreements on whether progress should be measured collectively or nationally. I remember one of the few words that we were saying it's always a country-driven process. This is like was every country was repeating this, at the first early sessions of SB 56 when we were negotiating and talking about GGA. Over the years, we moved from for conceptual debates to structured framework. We're talking about the adoption of the GGA framework. That was a significant step because it finally created a shared understanding of what global progress and on adaptation should look like. And we now have thematic targets, indicators, pathways that can or could guide us, like on national planning and international cooperation between countries in terms of adaptation. One of the major achievements talking about adaptation and how it evolved since SB 56 has been the increased political recognition of the adaptation finance. We no longer hear only adaptation is important. No, we now hear explicit acknowledgement of the finance gap and calls for the scaling up of finance and the improving of access and making funding more predictable, while like the delivery still lags behind needs. Unfortunately, the narrative shift is important because it shapes future commitments and negotiation outcomes. We have also seen progress as well, not only in GGA, also, but in the NAPs, the National Adaptation Plans. More countries have submitted or updated their NAPs, and the support architecture around NAP formulation and implementation has improved in a very, very, very good way. The adaptation committee, the Nairobi work program, and the leg have all expanded their work streams to better support countries, and that's like a major achievement, a major step in terms of improving adaptation and making it easier to countries. Another critical shift is that adaptation is now seen as and recognized as a pillar of global climate action rather than a secondary component. Remember at COP28, for example, adaptation was elevated politically alongside mitigation, and that was a historically step, to be honest. This recognition is essential and important because without adaptation, communities facing climate disaster will collapse even if mitigation succeeded. So adaptation, especially for countries or for Africa and the Middle East, let me talk about my region, these developments matter greatly. Adaptation is where climate change becomes visible. Water shortages, agriculture stress, coastal erosion, heat extremes. Seeing adaptation gain structure and visibility gives hope that the UNFCCC is slowly acknowledging the realities of millions of people across the global south, even though we're still like going and moving slowly. And as you know, unfortunately, we couldn't like agree on tripling the adaptation fund or the money needed for adaptation, but we're getting there. Step by step. Unfortunately, with the geopolitical situation, it's a little bit harder. It's going to be a little bit slower. It's going to be a little bit challenging between countries to find a landing spot between them to talk properly about adaptation fund and adaptation funding because it's crucial, as I said, for a lot of countries, especially countries from the south. But step by step, and I said, like as I've said, like there has been a huge involvement and development of what we call adaptation since SB 56 until COP30, as Malek as well mentioned, what happened at GGA in terms of indicators, in terms of measurement of adaptation needs, and I guess it's getting there slowly. We need to make the pace faster, but we're getting there slowly, step by step. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Ahmed. Once again, a really comprehensive and insightful response to that question. Thank you to all of our panelists for such an insightful and engaging discussion. Really appreciated the variances and nuances and the advice and insight that you were all able to provide in your responses to all those questions that we provided you. We've seen a few questions come in through the chat, and we're excited to dive straight into them. So for each question, any of our panelists who would like to answer are welcome to raise their hand and jump in. Kira, over to you in selecting which question to go through first.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for all the incredibly, thoughtful and thorough answers. I think that already covered a lot of the questions that I had coming into this, which is great. And I think, yeah, I think we have a good number of questions. We can just really get started with the first one we got through the chat, which is how did the presence or absence of strong intergenerational collaboration impact COP30's final outcomes? I think that's something, especially youth sometimes wonders, do we actually have an impact? What does our presence here actually change? And, how did you maybe see this through the actual negotiations? Anyone that wants to answer can jump right in.
Could you please repeat the question?
So the question is, how did the presence or absence of strong intergenerational collaboration, so like really collaboration between, youth negotiators, young people on the ground, and senior negotiators and government representatives, I guess, impact the final outcomes of this year's COP? Like, did you see any, like strong points where you think, oh, youth really made a difference, or was that maybe something that's still lacking and should be, continue to grow over time? Yeah, Malik, go ahead.
Sorry. So basically, I believe that the intergeneration collaboration is really important, and especially me and Ahmed, we are advocating for intergenerational equity integration into climate negotiations because we believe that youth bring and the young generation bring the how to say the ambition needed to the COP negotiations because decisions shaping us are taken without if we are not there, decision shaping us are taken without us, and also we need to think about the future of the next generation. And I believe from the first COP till today we have gone through a long way, and we can see through the BLM action mechanism BAM for just the global transition that the mechanism included the strong and right-based language referencing to intergenerational equity, labor rights, human rights, and the rights of intergenerational people. However, we're still far away from having those rights and having youth and the young generation taking the lead in the negotiation rooms and in the World Conference as it is. And we have today like the climate champions, the young climate champions, and at COP28, it was a major outcome to have youth climate champions throughout, like at the conference and all of that. But still, we are not yet there as youth. We are not taking the leadership in a way that it needs to be taken, because most of the negotiators in the rooms that are there are not the ones. They are talking about 2050 ambition. They are not the ones who will be in 2050, unfortunately. So we have some major outcomes when it comes to intergeneration collaboration, and we have youth like leading the side events at the conference, but still we are not having youth that are leading the actual negotiations, that the major outcomes and all the outcomes are actually we are having them, and we still are giving observers 2 minutes at the end of the sessions, at the end of the conference, to tell us what went wrong, and what is pressuring them and what we need to change as negotiators. But we don't have most of those as negotiators, and this is the sad point in the conference right now, and I hope it will change, because without youth we cannot have the ambition that we are talking about, and we cannot have the major outcomes that we are wanting to achieve. Another good point was at the ACE negotiation, Action for Climate Empowerment. Some countries submitted their NDCs, and those NDCs included the points of youth. So basically, 6 countries, one of them is Tunisia, another country is Sudan, etc. So those countries submitted their NDCs, and they included the perspective of youth when drafting those NDCs and etc. But we hope that also those NDCs will be youth driven when it comes to the implementation part, because we cannot be consulted at the consultation level without being also at the implementation part. So we have good points when it comes to youth at the conference, and other groups such as women, indigenous people, etc. But I think we are still far away from having the ambition that we are talking about, and the intergenerational equity at the conference, the way that it should be fully implemented.
Thank you very much. I think very, very good points, and very like that's what I felt as well. It's always like there is a lot of progress being made, but there's still a lot of space upwards, I guess, to improve that. Any other speakers that want to jump in? Any other, like anything that you want to add?
Probably I just want to like confirm that the BAM actually was a great success, a victory for COP30, as Malek mentioned, the BAM action mechanism. And I've seen the group, like a lot of my friends, activists, they were inside rooms. And remember, Malek, when you told me that when the discussions came about BAM, like all of them started screaming BAM, 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 BAM inside rooms. And they worked hard actually to get the BAM to be agreed on. And I guess it's a very, very important step. And it shows like how young generations and like we're talking here about like the intergenerational work, and we could like break the gap, and we could work next to seniors and next to politicians and decision makers, and that's very important, because sometimes I feel like it's a big mistake that young people like are putting them in a different group, and no, we don't want to collaborate with seniors or directors or politicians, like all politicians or wherever. And I remember me and Malek, we were like having a meeting with our Tunisian delegation, and this point came, like she said, like I don't believe like it's all only about youth. If you're capacitated, you will find your place. You can into the discussions and forget that you're youth. You can like contribute. Definitely, we as young people, we have like this different spirit. We always want to make things faster and everything and get to the point faster, because we're fighting and we're discussing our future as well, and we know that is really really crucial. But sometimes it's I know, I recognize that it's really hard. If we're not cooperating, if we're not collaborating with our seniors, it's really hard to get there, like being only putting yourself in a group and making the gap even bigger.
Thank you. That's a very good point. And that actually ties into another question I had, which goes more into the collaboration between civil society, youth, NGOs, youth constituencies, and actual negotiators. And the question really is like, and how far do you think, how important is it to have those spaces for collaboration, like to have a blue zone where you have side events, but also negotiations where you have observers in the rooms, kind of like how do you think how important it is to have civil society present in these negotiations and around, you know, like in the corridors, etc., to kind of advance climate action? Anyone can jump in that wants to.
Well, I'll be quick. If anyone wants to talk, definitely could just I'll be really quick. It's really really important, but I want to highlight something. You know, it's like,
I think you've muted yourself.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, having civil society, you know, from different backgrounds, NGOs as well, from different parts of the world, it's first of all, it's like a great opportunity for networking, creating let's say, dialogues, discussions. You never know, like you could meet someone from the Caribbeans and you're from North Africa, and you could create something incredible, you know, that helps the youth build their capacity and maybe their pathways and maybe create new solutions. You never know. It's always a great opportunity to meet there, and it's always a great opportunity to meet decision makers, to meet negotiators, to meet decision makers, and you can talk with them and you can like give them some insights and you can tell them this is not going the way that we want it. It's always hard, you know, for civil society to convince or to talk, especially with the delegates from the global north, because they come with a specific agenda. They come like with with the, let's say, I don't want to like with some ready statements, you know, but it's always good. It's important for observers as well to be inside of the rooms. Unfortunately, this year during COP30 in Belém, observers were really they didn't have the chance to speak, neither to listen, because Malek could agree with me on this. Like inside negotiations room, you need like to wear the headphones so you could like listen to the negotiations and to what are the delegations are and the delegates are saying. But the headphones the number were limited, and unfortunately, without the headphones, you could not listen to anything. And I believe probably during the whole negotiations adaptations, I've heard like few observers, like probably two or three, had the chance to speak, you know, and that's was a shame. Unfortunately, during COP30, logistically, it was unfortunately, I will say it was a failure, especially for observers not being able, not even to talk, not to follow the path of negotiations and what negotiators are saying. This is like what I have to say now.
Thank you very much. That's a very good point. I do have to say, online it was a lot easier this year. So I guess that was the only luck for people that joined online, that you could listen in. But yeah, fully agree with the difficulties there. Thank you very much. And Malak, go ahead.
Thank you, Kira, and thank you, Ahmed. So, basically, I believe that having observers, journalists, and also even the private sector as the conference is really important, because if we are talking about business as usual and shifting from that, we need them at least to listen to this discussion and be present there, mentioning the private sector. But having observers and journalists is really important, because what's happening at the negotiation rooms need to be reported at and need to be pointed at, because till today we are in somehow dealing with the pressures as developing countries versus developed countries of taking their responsibility and historic responsibilities when it comes to financing adaptation, mitigation, loss and damage, and action for climate empowerment, and many other areas. And this have been coming from the first COP till 30 COPs. So basically many years of just reminding them of feeling that adaptation gap, feeling that mitigation finance, etc., etc. So having them echoing our voices in the other side of the room is really important. And even in between the negotiations, like you can find them, and it's really refreshing as a negotiator from developing countries, because we go through a lot of pressures and we try to echo our voice and to stand, etc. And at some point, this is my sixth COP, but before this, like at some point, I was like, how can I keep going? Because I felt in some point I'm not changing much, if I'm not changing at all in this negotiation. And then I came at the point, if we are not there as young people, um, they will take the decision without us, and they will take worse decision because history has has proven that. If we go at the back decisions, we found that the other negotiators, like the president negotiators, agreed on decisions that we cannot agree on today. Like they agreed on the Paris Agreement that having mitigation as a responsibility for developing countries, which is not our responsibility. We are not creating any mitigation. We are responsible for mitigation, but this is not our responsibility. We agreed on having loans. Why we are having loans? So basically, those what keep me going, because we cannot accept this anymore in the next negotiations. Even like even if we can stand for this is already great, because the negotiation needs to end by consensus, and they need to agree on some position to for us to make it going. And I see like the negotiators, sorry, the observers, the journalists, and the other international organizations that are making panels and are between negotiations, and also joining us at the negotiation rooms as like a hope to to tell the people about what the frustration that we are going on, and how it's really intense for us to navigate those conferences, and also to raise again our demands that we are raising them in the negotiation rooms as developing countries, in other means like their newspaper, in the conference panel, in blogs, etc., in their national TVs, etc. So I believe it's really important to have them, and at least this is a good point in the conference.
Thank you very much. Some very, very important good points. And I think that that feeling of, am I actually changing anything? Quite a lot of people probably have experienced before in, especially in climate advocacy work. So I think it's really good to kind of see, hey, there are things that make you continue and move forward and really fight for this. So thank you very much for emphasizing that again, Malik. And then Chen Yen, I think you had some stuff to say as well.
Yeah, just a very quick response. Like, as a observer, I'm quite pleasure to hear that. But like the Aman said, that the earphone, the logistics issue, it really influenced me a lot. Like when that's majority of the chance, I got chance to enter the negotiation room, and I found out I cannot hear anything because I cannot because the shower rain is too heavy, and the earphone is quite limited, so I cannot follow up anything. But yeah, I want the flag I want to raise is like because the schedule on negotiator is quite tight. Like as an observer, I have plenty of time to networking with other and join like side event I hold, or I attend others NGOs side event. So we had a lot of time. We had a lot of chance to exchange our opinion. But I felt that I met few negotiator in COP30 that might, because like in COP like the negotiator schedule and the observer schedule is quite different, and like the reason and the scale the reason is totally different. So I'm as first, so my message will be like I am quite looking forward to have more had more like connection with negotiator if we had the mechanism to elaborate together. Like there's always new ideas, or like new idea from NGOs or like advocacy, and also that I think that the constraint or the pressure of negotiation also have to be bring out from the negotiation room. Like because as a part-time journalist, we are creating the environment to make the agenda move forward. Like we can create some pressure from the public or from social, and we can also we can also build or like modify the agenda from the audience through media. So yeah, I think it will be very important if we can make some connection before the COP or after that, and it will be very good. Thanks.
Thank you. I think that's very good to kind of have those different perspectives, to have someone that, has an observer status that is a very different role. You have a very different kind of experience of COP as people that are there as negotiators that are, in the informal sessions, in all the like deep technical discussions versus someone that maybe you don't get access to everywhere, but then you can join events, you can network, you can kind of see more of the civil society side sometimes as well. Maybe I think that's a really interesting insights and kind of shows how there's so many different ways to engaging in COPs and to like being a part of climate negotiations. Like there's no one route towards it. Like there's very like so many different roles you can take on. Well, thank you very much for emphasizing that. I just wanted to check if there's any kind of, we're starting to wrap up now, if there's any last, statements or last things you'd like to share with everyone, if you have any last thoughts you'd like to bring to us. If anyone wants to just raise your hand. If not, we can continue on. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys so much again for answering all the questions and having so much insights and so much information to share with everyone. It's really greatly appreciated, and I think a lot of people can really learn from this. Kind of to wrap it up a bit and summarize, today we've explored the inner workings of COP30 negotiation halls, and really, we've gone from the complex dynamics shaping global climate diplomacy to the more practical realities also of being especially junior negotiators and navigating these, like different things and how to represent your constituencies and your countries on such a large stage. And we've heard really firsthand from you guys about the skills, the pressures, the opportunities that define climate negotiations today, and also especially the critical role that young professionals play in pushing for more inclusive and ambitious outcomes that are much more future focused and really, like build the world for future generations. And these insights really shed light not only on how decisions are made at COP, but also on how, these early career voices can really meaningfully influence global climate action at a moment when the world really needs young people the most to step up and really, be able to have an impact. So thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure being with you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
And as we close, we just want to thank all of our speakers once again for their time, their expertise, and their generosity in sharing what truly happens inside the negotiation room. It has been a privilege to learn from you all, and we look forward to having you back in the coming years to reflect on how climate diplomacy and the role of young negotiators continues to evolve. To everyone here today, we encourage you to stay engaged, keep learning, and continue taking part in these conversations. Follow YPFP Global Branch and Generation Climate Europe on LinkedIn, Instagram, and our respective newsletters to stay updated on upcoming events, opportunities, and insights on climate diplomacy and global affairs. Once again, big thank you to our speakers who have volunteered their time to give us their insights on this really engaging discussion, and to Generation Climate Europe for their collaboration on this event too. And we look forward to future events and hopefully having the same speakers on future events too. Big thank you to you all, and enjoy the rest of your days wherever you are.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye. Have a
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.